Hello guys and welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we're going to be taking a look at Bob McKenzie's first 2023 NHL draft rankings right before the season starts because there is a ton of great info on what scouts are thinking right now and where these prospects could potentially go. Now, when it comes to Bob McKenzie's rankings, what are the actual rankings at hand here? What are my thoughts on them and what could change throughout the season as we go forward? Watch till the end for all the 2023 draft talk and all of the prospect rankings, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new. 50% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you like hockey and prospect content, this channel is the place to be. Now, just a day ago, Bob McKenzie, of course, released his preseason rankings, going through 16 of the top players as well as 4 honorable mentions. And again, these lists are always based on what NHL scouts are thinking, not Bob McKenzie. So this gives us a great idea of which prospects the NHL thinks should go where and what the 2023 draft could eventually look like. Now, of course, as you see in the title, didn't have to overthink this. Bedard tops McKenzie's preseason draft ranking, and you go through the first little bit. To the surprise of absolutely no one, Conor Bernard is number 1 on TSN's preseason ranking for the 2023 NHL draft. 10 out of 10 scouts surveyed by TSN have the Regina Pats 5'10", 185-pound center at number 1 to start the 2023 season for the class of 23. Was there ever any doubt? In a word, no. Didn't have to overthink this, one scout said. So you get a not surprising answer there that overwhelmingly Conor Bernard is the first overall pick. There have been still some people that are trying to overthink it, but Conor Bernard is the best player of this 2023 draft, and unlike Shane Wright, I don't see that changing. Now, of course, you guys know I still have Wright number 1, but at the same time, I think in this draft, in this landscape, although there's going to be competition, I don't think there's going to be real competition for Conor Bernard's number 1 spot, especially with how coveted and potential filled he is. But you see some of the quotes here, and here we are. That isn't to say that there aren't a lot of unanswered questions about Bedard. Just how good is he? How good will he become in the pantheon of great young NHL superstar talents? Where will he fit in? Could he be a generational talent for which that absurdly high bar that is Connor McDavid is now the measuring stick? Does he have what it takes to be the next big scoring thing in the NHL? Ascending to the universe that includes much bigger and physically dominant players such as Alexander Ovechkin and Austin Matthews. And given that the 2022 draft unfolded, highly anticipated consensus number 1 center Shane Wright, the last player prior to Bedard to get granted exceptional status, falling to 4th overall on draft day. Will Bedard even go 1st overall on June 28th in Nashville? Well, one NHL scout said, I suppose anything is possible, but when you look at how Bedard shoots the puck, his innate ability to score goals, and you project him as an elite goal scorer who could very well get 50 and 60 in the NHL, how does a team picking 1st overall pass on that? Now, the thing for me is that I think for the 1st overall debate, I don't think goal scoring is maybe the most important thing, because with Matvei Michkov, I think he has potential to maybe be a better goal scorer, at least at the same level as Bedard, but it's what Bedard also does on top of that, with the elite anticipation skills, the playmaking, and the decision making on such a split-second basis. He's always at such a high level with his play and his work ethic, and I think that's what really separates him for me, at least being in number 1 spot for now, and I think that's the case for a lot of other scouts too. Now let's actually go on to the top 16 for Bob McKenzie and all the NHL scouts that were surveyed here, and of course with Conor Bernard landing at number 1, that is no surprise. We've gone over him, and again, I don't expect that position to change whatsoever throughout the year. But at number 2, you have Matvei Michkov coming out of Russia, which to me is a really interesting factor, because in a video about a month ago, we talked about Michkov versus Fantilli and whether NHL scouts might prefer Fantilli down the line because of the much more NHL readiness there and maybe more of a less complications due to Michkov, of course, signing in Russia and potentially staying there over the next few seasons. So Michkov still, though, lands at number 2, which I think is the correct choice. Still would be number 2 in my draft rankings, just with the talent and the goal scoring potential that he has. It's absolutely lights out, and to me, I think 2nd overall is a good spot for him. Then we go on to number 3 of Adam Fantilli landing at this spot, which I think is deserved as well. Getting at that 3rd spot, he's going to be with Michigan this next year. I think he's going to be a force in the center position, and with that physical traits, with the play driving he has, I think he's going to be a really coveted player, and another guy that I don't see going outside the top 3 either. Next up, though, going on to number 4 is Braden Yeager, who I think is going to be in an interesting position this next year. You see 59 points in 63 games this last year with Moose Jaw. And to me, when it comes to Yager, he's a little bit lower on my list. I would personally have him around maybe the 6th or 7th range, but at the same time, he's an interesting player as well, who I think brings a lot of great characteristics and really a pretty balanced offensive level where he is able to beat you in a lot of different ways. So we'll see how his game projects this next year, how that production continues to climb, but I think it is fair even if I wouldn't have him inside the top 4. But then you go at number 5, you got Leo Carlsson, a player that in my opinion is a pretty big slam dunk to be a top 5 pick this next year, or at least challenge for those positions. Likely going to be in the SHL for a big chunk of the year, but he's so interesting as a great power forward project, brings a great stride, great awareness to the game, and on top of that, with his shot, with his fundamental offensive creation, he's a guy that with his physical traits as well, is a pretty complete player in my opinion, and one of the better centers especially in this draft. Then you go on to number 6, and continuing the centers, you got Ritchie of the Oshawa Generals, which I think is a little bit of a, I would say a generous position for him. I would have him more so in the 10s, maybe 12 position for me personally. But you see this last year, 45 points in 65 OHL games for his age, absolutely incredible. And to me, he's going to be an interesting project to watch. Is a little bit farther away than some other players, but I think this next year will be a big stepping stone for him. I don't know if he's going to be in the top 6. I still think that's generous, but at the same time, this draft, especially after Bedard, can still be pretty wide open, and especially at this stage, I wouldn't write anybody off. Then you got at number 7, Zach Benson, who I personally would have around the 5th spot, but at number 7, I can see where some of the issues rise. Of course, being 5'8" is a problem for him a little bit, but at the same time, I still love a lot of his characteristics, and I love how he's able to drive play, how he's able to get intense along the boards, and do a lot of great things with his creativity. You see this last year, 63 points, 58 games. Sure, he was a part of that unreal Winnipeg ice system, but at the same time, I think he was driving play exceedingly well and deserving of the points that he got. So I think 7 is a position where we could even see him go higher throughout the year. I would not be surprised if some people have him inside the top 5 like me, but also because of his size, I could see him dropping on draft day. Then you got at number 8, Cam Allen of the Guelph Storm. As much as the Guelph Storm are my favorite OHL team, I would not have Cam Allen this high, but 37 points in 65 games this last year for him. I think that's a really interesting spot for him, and I think that's right around where he'll end up on draft day a year ahead of time. I see him having a good solid year with the anticipation he has, with the offensive transition game he has too. I think he's a guy that just has a lot of good traits to him and is pretty balanced offensively, and I think teams will like that quite a bit. Then going on to number 9 in Dalibor Dvorsky. You guys know how I feel about Dvorsky, my favorite prospect of this upcoming draft. He's a guy that in my opinion is a top 5 player right now, but we'll obviously see how this next season goes. It's going to be an interesting one. You see he played in the Allsvenskan at 3 points in 17 games, but to me when it comes to Dvorsky, he's maybe one of the most well-rounded players of this draft. Is able to play in so many positions, so many different situations, and to me get the job done in everything. You combine that with some excellent playmaking traits and to me a really consistent offensive game, and to me Dvorsky is a top 5 pick, but there are some questions out there over his top end talent. To me that's probably the biggest issue, but I would say if you have him in the top 10 at least, that's fine by me. Then you go on to number 10 with Charlie Stramel, the highest American ranked player in this draft. Pretty lower tier draft for the Americans, all things considered, but Stramel I think should definitely be in that top spot. I would have him around the 8 to 10 range for sure. I mean that intensity that he has, as Craig Button mentions, has a bowl-like mentality in his approach to playing. Absolutely correct there. Just such a fun player to watch, and the intensity and the work ethic and the way he's able to grind play, but also bring that edge and bring that positional play that opens lanes up for him. He's going to be a really interesting player to watch though for Wisconsin this next year, and another center in the top 10, which is crazy to think about. Then you go on to number 11 with Nate Danielson of the Brandon Wheat Kings. I think it's a pretty solid spot for him, kind of like Dalibor Dvorsky a little bit for me, where I don't see amazing top end talent, but a lot of well-roundedness and a lot of great compete to his game. Even though I don't think he'll be a first line center by any means, I could see him being a solid second line guy that you could plan a penalty kill, play in a lot of defensive situations and get a lot out of. So at number 11, I don't hate that spot at all. Then you go on to number 12 of Ethan Gautier, who was amazing in the I'm pretty sure the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, if I remember correctly, but I'm trying to think of all these players as I go through. But when it comes to Gautier, he's going to be one of the most interesting players to watch because he's been a guy that's been rising a lot over these last few months. You see with Sherbrooke, he got 39 points in 65 games. I think in the QMJHL, his style really fits to it. He has a lot of great skill, a lot of great high-end talent, and to me, the QMJHL is able to kind of hide some discrepancies in the work ethic and the defensive play, which I think helps Gautier quite a bit, but at the same time, that high-end talent and that offensive quickness he has is at such a great level that I could still see him being worthy of a spot like this. Then you go on to number 13 with Edward Sale, and to me, I absolutely love this position. Sale's a guy that's been rising a lot for me recently and is the highest Shack-born player of this draft, for me at least. You see, he's going to be hopefully playing in the top tier of the Czech League this next year, and I just really loved what I saw over these last few months in some of the international tournaments we saw, the creativity, the style that he had, and the the amount of confidence he had was just unbelievable to watch. And I think he's going to be one of the more higher rated wingers of this draft by the end of things, and I think a lot of people will come to love his play style. Then on to number 14, Otto Stenberg. Pretty interesting pick. I didn't really expect him to be even in the top 20, but he's a player I haven't watched too much, but I do like a lot of the decision making he has. And I think some of the physical traits are solid for a player that is 5'11", but that is somebody I'm going to need to watch a lot more of, because if he's going to be in the top 15, that's going to be pretty surprising for me. Then number 15, they have Colby Barlow of the Owen Sound Attack, which I think is a pretty fair spot for him, all things considered. You see this last year with the Owen Sound Attack in the OHL, 45 points, 30 goals in 59 games played. It was pretty great in the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and to me, what separates Barlow a lot is the physical anticipation. A guy that loves to carve through defenders, loves to open lanes for himself, and with that shot, it creates a pretty good blend and mixture of play style. And to me, when it comes to Barlow, a lot of those traits, a lot of those offensive anticipation skills will carry over to the pros and carry over to the NHL. And then you got for the final player inside the top 16, Casper Holton, which I think is slightly low for him. I would have him around 10, 11, 12, but I can still see where they're coming from a little bit here. But to me, there's so much potential with this player. At 6'3", you've got 24 goals and 38 points this last year. I'm pretty sure the U20 league. And to me, when it comes to Halttunen, there's a lot to like there. Obviously, the size is a big thing, but the way he's able to create lanes for himself, the way he's able to work off his teammates and really drive play well is a big highlight for me. And of course, you combine the physical traits, you combine the anticipation there. And to me, I think Halttunen could be a guy that ends up in the top 10 when it's all said and done. But then you got the final 4 players in the honorable mentions, and to me, there's some interesting names here. Mikhail Gulyev is the first one there, and a guy that's also been rising a lot for me over these past few months. I'm pretty sure played in the KHL this last week and was pretty good in it. And to me, I think Gulyev could be a really interesting offensive player to watch this next year, and really brings a lot of great traits, especially in the power play. We'll see how he rises, but obviously being the first honorable mention is not too bad. You got Will Smith, I guess the second American on the list as honorable mention, which I think is pretty fair. Maxim Sturbak as a defenseman is an interesting pick. Not sure if I go that high on him, but I could also see where the talent lies. And then you got Matthew Wood for the from the NCAA at 6'3". Also a player that's pretty interesting at this high, but there you go. You got the top 20 right there, and a lot of interesting names, but honestly, I think it's a pretty fair list. I mean, there are some players I would have higher, like Halttunen potentially, maybe Sale a little bit, maybe obviously Dvorsky would be one for me, maybe Benson a little bit, but honestly, I can see where they're coming from for a lot of these, and I think it's a pretty balanced and fair list, all things considered. Also, there's a few more quotes in this article that I thought were interesting. This one by an NHL scout was really crazy. Michkov may be the second best prospect in the entire draft, maybe even the best, and given his contract status, I'm not even sure he'll be taken in the top 5 picks in June. It's a really talented draft class if you're picking in the top 5, and the choice is between a gifted Russian who can wait on 3 or more years and a gifted prospect who's available to you right away. It's going to be intriguing to see how it all plays out for Michkov. So more details on potentially Michkov slipping in this draft. Also, in TSN's survey of scouts on the rankings, Bedard got all 10 first place votes. 6 scouts had Michkov at 2, and 4 had him at number 3, while 4 scouts had Fantilli at 2, and 6 had him at number 3. The trio separated themselves from the rest of the field. So there you go. You got that confirmed top 3 of Bedard, Michkov, and Fantilli. But as we were talking about last month, that gap between Michkov and Fantilli is getting less and less every single time. But those are Bob McKenzie's 2023 draft rankings. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys agree and disagree with his list? What are your thoughts on it? What would you change? What would your list look like? And of course, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Comment down below all your thoughts, share the video with all the hockey and prospect fans you guys know online, and click this card for my 2023 NHL draft content. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.